Hello, everyone, and welcome to Festive Tech Calendar session. Uh, this is another session that we are bringing as a team T-Rex here, and we are going to talk all about 12 FinOps tips of Christmas, and how you can utilize the best practices for Azure Cost Management, also with a pinch of AI in it. But before going further, is there any other things you want to add, Jason, kind of to tease the viewers who are going to watch our session?
No, it's great to be here with you again this year. And we added a little bit of AI, like you said, a pinch of AI in here too, to talk a little bit more about how that's changing the environment. So great to get on with it.
Yes, great. And thank you for agreeing, being, partner in crime here and recording this session together. Really appreciate your time. Thank you. That said, let's move forward here. Maybe you remember Jason from our previous session. He's Innovation Tech Executive and CTO in Tech Solutions, and he's a great technologist. Back to you, Jason.
Thank you. And I'll introduce Elhan. Elhan is basically our cloud Santa. He's delivering gifts of knowledge to us all the time. So really appreciate him being on the team. Director of our cloud infrastructure team is also a Microsoft Azure MVP and 18 years in the industry. So definitely learn a lot from him too. And great to be here working with him on this.
Thank you, Jason, for a great introduction. I couldn't introduce myself like that, so let's move forward with this session. Okay, that said, what we are going to see today, what we'll cover. Shortly, we'll start with why and what of FinOps, and you will learn more about this topic. That's very important. Then we'll look into hows of FinOps, where to start, and what is the actual important matter with the solutions that FinOps brings to your day-to-day customers. Then, of course, we'll look into FinOps in Azure, how those FinOps practices and frameworks align with the approach that Microsoft Azure has in place. Then, of course, we are talking about Christmas here. We need to mention 12 FinOps tips of the Christmas and stay tuned to get them knowing by the end of this session. And we'll have a small demo at the end to wrap it up and give you some practical tips how you can use your newly acquired FinOps knowledge here. That's it. T-Rex is a great mid-sized company. And Jason, can you introduce this to our viewers?
Yeah, like Elhan said, both of us work for T-Rex. Great mid-sized company. Developed the 2020 census. If you did your census online, you did it with an application that we helped integrate. We work across a lot of environments, from the federal side to the DoD side. You can see all those agencies in the middle there. And great partners with a lot of our cloud vendors too, which is down on the right-hand side. So would love to, if you want to reach out, we're definitely open to talking a little bit more about the work that we do.
And as organization in 2026, we are all about AI first approach. So if you are looking to sharpen up your AI skills or you have great ideas how to implement them in a different agencies and customers, let us know. We are happy to get in touch with you. Now, next, why and what of FinOps? Jason, can you share some of the practical, I would say, interactions that you had with customers and with the projects? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And this is probably one of the charts I love talking about because it's a lot like the holiday shopping sprees that you have. You're out getting gifts. Um, FinOps is just like that for cloud infrastructure. Is you don't want to put out too much money during the holidays. You don't want to get the cost spending out of hand, and this is how you keep that in hand. So first, we'll talk about why is it important. Now we're headed with cloud, we're headed into variable cost. In a lot of cases, when you're on-prem, you don't see that variable cost. It's bought, it's done ahead of time. Now you're talking about costs that can exceed what you're expecting based upon your deployment. Also, immediate procurement of resources. Again, you're not waiting for things to come in. You try to purchase things for an on-prem environment. It takes months to get in. Now you get it immediately. It's there and it's available immediately. And also that micro allocation of cost, being able to determine where that cost is going. What systems are using the most cost? What's scaling up? What's scaling down? When do you need those environments scaled up or scaled down is important. So that's why this is important, why FinOps is important. What is it? Well, you can see that circle on the right-hand side there is our framework is really talking about collaboration and optimization as the first step is understanding across the teams, not just one team looking at the cost, everybody's looking at the cost and providing that information to everybody. That allows for accountability so that you know how you're building your applications, you know how you're spending those, operations knows how they're scaling up and scaling down, visibility across the board, and getting accountability across everyone for what's been established in the cloud and how you're spending your money. Standardization, very important. We'll talk about standardization again. It's really talking about how do you standardize deployments? How do you standardize the data that's coming in? There is certain models that allow you to standardize the data that you're getting off the cloud providers so that you can bring that into one tool and visualize it. Governance is another important part of that, and it's really determining how you're deploying, where you're deploying, how often you're deploying, when do you spend those environments down. So getting that governance around it's very important too, so that you can make sure that you're constantly looking at this stuff. And then the real-time decision making is really getting that data in front of everybody, so that it's not just one person making that decision. You're making that decision in sometimes automated ways, automating the spinning down of environments, automating when things scale up or scale down. So it's a total framework that allows everybody to get visibility into it and also standardize across the teams.
That's great, and especially with the governance of the resources and as well as governance of the cost, I think it's going to be a very important topic in 2026 with all these exploding AI workloads and all these resources they require in order to be productive.
Yep. No, I agree. It's going to continue to be more important, and that's
Yes.
where AI will be able to help us in the future
Yes.
too.
Great. And then we have this house of the FinOps in terms of its model and stuff. And I hope you can also give a little bit introduction into the focus framework, which is very important part of this standardization. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'll start with Focus. Focus is from the FinOps.org. They're looking at a approach to making sure that we standardize the data that's coming out of FinOps system or from the cloud vendors. And that allows us to then not have to transform that data and be able to use it as it is to compare across clouds and do a multi-cloud environment FinOps approach. So that's where focus really comes into play, and that's a focused approach to the data model of data within the FinOps area. You can think about FinOps model as like the perfect holiday celebration, and that's what you're seeing on the left hand side here is everybody coming together and being able to use that data in a good way so that you can get a good result out of it. You start with inform, which is the awareness and allocation, being able to allocate things to the systems that are using those resources. Then you look at optimization, being able to figure out where you can get efficiencies and savings. And then at the back end, the governance and accountability, being able to feed that into a governance approach so that you can govern how things are being run and also getting that accountability across the teams. What we add is that centerpiece, which is the adoption of this into the organization. And it's really that has to happen because you really want every team to be involved in FinOps, not just the financial team. The one thing I would add at the bottom there is AI-driven insight. And AI is a big term right now in the industry, but it can be used definitely in FinOps. And a lot of the vendors that have vendor created tools for FinOps are using AI-driven insights, and that helps you with your anomaly detection. Are you seeing things spike? Prediction of budgeting, being able to predict the budgets ahead of where you're headed as far as your spend is concerned, and automatic tagging so that you make sure that you're allocating the right resources to the right teams. So where do you start? Where we say to start is really looking at your FinOps assessment. Azure has a great FinOps assessment approach, and you can look at your understanding your maturity. Where are you at? Where can you head towards? Where can we help as T-Rex is concerned? We can help with the AI support in FinOps. We're definitely focused in that area as far as our customers are concerned to help them bring them along to understand how AI can definitely support you in your journey as far as maturing your FinOps practice. And then accelerating your journey, putting things in place that can help accelerate that journey, and then optimizing your cloud and data center, bringing down the costs overall within your organization. I'll turn it back over to Elon.
I'll just add something about our approach at TRX. Using this approach, we were able to save client in one of our very critical programs. It was a mid-sized program, over $1 million in operation year one. And the way how we approach that is more of a looking and understanding each workload, what's their demand, and is there a way that we can optimize that so that the customer can get the cost benefits and as well as reduction in the price to make sure that they are right sized for the mission that they need to serve.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, and that's huge. Before in the past, and this is where AI has been really helping us
Yes.
quite a bit, is in the past, before you'd have to test out, and you still test out those systems, but
Yes.
it's able to allow you to model and predict what you believe the workload will be based upon the past. So huge improvements there on being able to model things and look at what you need as far as capabilities are concerned.
Right. That's great. Next here, if you look at FinOps in Azure, of course, they are all reusing major components of the Focus framework. So as Jason mentioned, driving the accountability is one of the main purposes why FinOps is in Azure. And business actually needs, identifying the business needs and growth, and then making sure that the resources and spend is allocated there. It's very important part of this driving the accountability. Then of course visibility. Visibility and accountability, they are like two hands. They act together in the FinOps approach, which drives the cost management. And we'll look into this cost management and its capabilities in Azure portal during the demo. Then of course the governance and Azure policy. So governance is a very loaded term. It comes with a lot of stuff, but when we look at that in Azure, it comes with understanding of the technical concepts like management groups, subscriptions, and resource group hierarchy, how you can organize them and then tune them up for the needs of your customer and governance needs of. There are great tools of Azure policy that you can apply in order to be able to keep your governance in place regarding the allocation of resources or tagging of the resources and being able to predict the any misalignment in terms of spend and what was allocated. So there's a number of places where you can use your Azure policies to tune up to the needs of your customer and to the project. And
Yeah, and
yes.
I wanted to mention when you're talking about governance too, is you can consider like guardrails as part of your governance too. So uh, don't think of it just as people sitting in a room making decisions on how things move forward, but everybody has a part in governance, and part of that is what kind of guardrails you're putting in onto your system as you're deploying it too.
Yes, that definitely that's kind of the main purpose of that, the guardrails. And then when we look at that, of course, with visibility, it's also need to have some type of monitoring and tracking of the cost. And to do that in Azure, in Azure through the cost management, you can get a number of different canned reports and views that can help you to have this detailed view into the cost of the subscriptions or management groups. And depending on the scope of your research, where you want to see the cost, you can drill down and see more details of the cost. In addition to that, I want to mention that because Azure platform itself is built on API approach. So if you have a third-party tools and you want to export the cost and do your dicing and slicing of financial data there, it's also possible. Software solutions that customer wanted to have in place. And finally, cost optimization, right? So how you can optimize the cost, how you can predict what's coming. There are different ways to do that. In Azure, one of the good places where you can start to look at is Azure Advisor, where you can get great recommendation about the cost optimization, about the security and other aspects of your workload to optimize and tune it up. And you can also use resource reservations and as well as the saving options to get maximum benefit to your customers by optimizing the cost.
Yeah, and what I would say about that cost optimization side, and you've shown a lot, and you'll show probably in the demo too, is it's kind of like being the savvy shopper out there right now. Is
Yes.
it will tell you where you can reduce maybe sizing on your instances that you've deployed, or what other services you might be able to use in order to decrease your cost. So it's a very, very good approach to reducing cost overall. Is really look at your cost optimization within the cloud.
Yes, that's great. And I will just add something there just to keep the expectation correct here. I'm going to utilize some test subscriptions, meaning that I don't have a huge, spend there, so to speak, right? But what I want to mention is that when you are in a real world environment where you have, 10 thousands, millions of spending, then you would see difference there much bigger. Here, in my demo, maybe we are going to spend talk about no dollars or cents, but what I'm trying to say is that don't get discouraged with those small numbers. In the real world it makes a big difference. Yes. Okay, that said, before jumping to the demo, I would like to go to this summarized way of 12 FinOps tips that we can introduce to our viewers so that they can actually act upon it and have some understanding. I will start with the first one, as it was in my previous slide, is driving accountability first. So the first tip is that once you start with FinOps approach, with that mindset, it will drive accountability in your spend and in the teams to understand where they are spending the resources and credits that are coming with that. Second is making cost visible. Uh, so making cost visible is essential part of it. You cannot measure something that's not visible, you don't see and you don't understand. That's the second tip that comes with it. The third tip is very general. It applies, I believe, across any CSP, any cloud solution provider, is that you need to have tagging in place and you need to have it properly done. I saw that approach to the tagging is not as serious, but putting that into the guardrail, into the policies, and making sure that automatic tagging in place is very important, especially for the people who are running the accountability and finances on the spend of the resources, and they have to report it at the end of quarter or monthly. It's very important, and I would say, don't over underestimate the tagging in any cloud solution project where you are performing. Then, of course, governance with guardrails. We kind of already mimicked to that, and you get some information about it. Next, we have budget and alerting. So, if you want to be in a position that you don't get surprise bill at the end of the month, you want to get alert if there is a sudden spike in the spending. These are the great tools that you need to consider. Budgeting and alerting is very important. Then, of course, monitoring and observability, having that continuously in your environment is key for a savvy FinOps approach. And your customers will really, really appreciate you if you provide them in advance about any anomalies, any extra spend, or any reduction in the cost that they can see some saving at the end of the day. Okay, then
Yeah.
we have,
If
yes, back
Alan,
to
if
you.
you want me to, I can deliver the
Sure.
the the next
Yes,
ones if
go.
you'd
Yes,
like.
yes, please.
I'll give you a chance to not have to talk the whole time. So, number seven is optimizing Azure native tools, and this is really looking at the tools within your environment. It could be Azure, it could be other clouds. Look at those tools first because there is a lot of optimization tools that you can utilize, and we'll talk about those a little bit in the demo. Standardization, we've talked a lot about that here too already in the previous slides, is standardizing using focus, standardizing your process, and that's the good thing that T-Rex can bring is that process and approach to standardize it so that everybody knows what they're dealing with, and it's a repeated process that's easy to use, and it just becomes natural for the organization. Automate where it counts, figure out where you can automate where it really counts is really looking at those things like, do you have environments that are up that are not being used? Can you automate the shutdown of those environments so that you're not dealing with that? Can you look at storage that's detached? That's one of those key issues we've seen in other organizations where you have detached storage. You already shut down the instance, but you never got rid of the storage. So there's a lot of key little things that you can look at to make sure that, and we try to build those into our process to make sure that you're shutting those down and recovering that cost. align with business outcomes. Um, Elhan's talked about this a lot, is figuring out what is your business need and being able to address the environment so that the environment matches what the business needs. Do you need it all up all the time, or is there peak points that you need to spin up environments? And being able to automate a lot of that helps you out. And that's where AI really helps you try to predict what your environment needs going forward, or being able to see anomalies and being able to track those down and fix them quickly. Adopt an iterative model, being able to deploy in the same way, being able to look at the data in the same way. That iterative model really gets this into just a natural thing that everybody's being able to do in the organization over and over again. And then again, we talk about this a lot because that's part of our organization is teamwork. It's not just one person's job to look at the FinOps, it's everybody's job to look across it because people look at it from a different perspective and are able to see different things. And it's really everybody's job to look at the FinOps of the organization and be able to understand the organization's use of their cloud environment and be able to drive down that cost.
And that was 12 tips. But when you look at all those 12 tips, and thank you, Jason, for bringing the, those tips and explaining the, the driver behind each of them. I will just add something is that having this approach of FinOps more like a process where you can't turn it down in one night. It's not just you went and you implement all the guardrails and boom, you are good for the next year. No, that's unfortunately not how it is working. It's more of a gradual approach where team is going to understand the workloads, their needs, speak with the customers, and then reduce, I would say reduce, but then adjust accordingly the resources and SKU of the services that are needed to run the business. Because all of these things, all the FinOps approach is done to help the business to succeed by reducing the waste, right? So there's no waste in the spending, plus allocating the appropriate resources to run it more efficiently. So again, think about as a process. It's not going to happen overnight, but continuous improvement, education, and collaboration between the team. That's what will bring the ultimate result to our customers, making them happy and making the workloads running in an optimized way. Uh, that said, now we came to the exciting part of the demo here on Azure. I'm not going to bore you out with all pretty nitty details on Azure portal. I know if I dive into that, it can take another half an hour. So I'm going to try to cut it a little bit short. And if there is something in between that you didn't understand or you need to some deep dives, please just contact us, reach back, and we'll try to help you with that notions. So where I am now is I'm on the Azure portal. First thing that you want to do once you logged in, you want to type the cost management, and that's where cost management and billing, you would get these two different things. So if you have more billing related questions, like you want to look at the previous bill, how it was and everything, you can navigate to this tab. But in our case, we are going to focus on the cost management. So we went and clicked on it. So here in the beginning, when you start, if you don't know where to look, I highly advise to look at tutorials here. They are very good starter, and from time to time, actually Microsoft changed them. That's kind of one good place to look at them. Second good place to look at that is actually to come to this FinOps on Azure page. So why I'm recommending that is because no matter where you are in your journey or FinOps, there are certain baseline that you want to build. And to build that baselines and understanding, these 8 exercises are really key. And they are, even though they are kind of elementary in the beginning, and you may already know some of them, I would strongly advise to go and check them out. I'm going to provide that links in the in that video recording of this session. Okay, that's it. Now back to where we are. So here in cost analysis, if we navigate to the cost analysis, which is under the reporting and analytics here, you will see that it comes with a number of different views. And if you remember, part of the view is that there are views that you can browse them all if you want to see. And you would see that Azure already baked in some of the AI there, some of these Azure Open AI resources, how you can manage them, and as well as different views in terms of looking at view of the cost of the resources, maybe that is sliced and diced based on each resource, based on each daily cost spent and invoice details. So you can, click on each of them and go through them. I'm not going to click on them, but just want to make sure you have it. The second thing that you can utilize is if you want to be on the same tab, you can create a new tab and look at different view of your cost. For example, here we are looking at the cost for the December months, where we see that, what's the average spend and what's the budget for that Linux project that I allocated for this project. Then, of course, we can go again back to the new tab and go through other things, which I'm not going to dive into. But let's say we want to use we talked about AI, right? So let's come back to the AI piece and see what we can discover, which is not visible, when we just look at the cost. Because if you have a subscription, let me show that. So if you have a subscription and you want to see overall cost and accumulated cost for the months, you can use the views like accumulated view, and you can see, okay, what's the trajectory where the spend is going, and then you can actually change this. So if you want to see the daily, you can play with filters there, kind of see different views. Another thing that I find very helpful is if you want to see exact cost, for example, in a given month or a month before, what specific resource spent was, then you can actually use this table. It's very handy when you are trying to report on anomalies, especially on the service and cost. So this is like based on daily group, but if you, for example, if I go here and put here resource, and I have its table view, you would see the resource names and then spent on a given month. So usually December month is not over yet, so you wouldn't see the actual spend. There will be some projections. So that's why for this I would recommend uh, to see the actual cost. You can say, okay, let's go and look at last invoice or last month. Let's see last 30 days. Yeah, yeah, here we go. Last 30 days. And it's part of the Azure portal. Sometimes you have to wait. So that's why I always have a cup of tea or coffee nearby and sip whenever you are waiting. That will keep you warm, especially in the winter time. So we are still waiting.
And I think that one of the other things is you can download this if you're using Power BI or something like that
Yes.
you want to visualize it, or you can actually use an API to connect to a FinOps tool too in order to pull this data out and use it across a multi-cloud environment.
And that's a great suggestion. So in one of our projects, what we do actually is we are exporting the cost. So what you can do, you can come, if you want to export your cost to Power BI or some other third-party tools for visualization, you can come here to export cost and create a expert by going to this wizard and allocating which type of cost you want to export. Anyway, so it came here. So as you see, there's a number of different resources that are, and what is the exact spend on which day. Anyway, so of course everyone can come here and look at those things, but we want to talk about AI. And when we talk about AI, it's capabilities that we can use in this tool. And in our case, one of the built-in capabilities that you can use is a copilot that comes here. So I'm initiating that, and it will come up with readily available, prompts here. What was my last month's spent on Azure Web App Services? This is a very specific question, and this question can think about that. You have different customers and they have workloads in your environment. So some of those customers may come and say, okay, during the last quarter, what was the spend on my workloads? And if their workloads are based around Azure Web App Services, then that's one of the questions that you can ask the Copilot and then can get this quick response. So in this case, it gave me some responses. There are a number of different web app resources. So it gives response saying, hey, there was like $40.46 charge. So this is basically a pretty fast response um, from Copilot. Second thing here, let me, okay.
Yeah, and what I would say
Yes, sir.
about this is
Mm-hmm.
we tried it out last year. We've been trying, and just one of those things we've learned over time too.
Yes.
Definitely getting better over time. Your prompts are very important, how you put your prompts in, and understanding if you want to just look at one environment versus others, and also how you want the response to come back. So, how you manage your prompts with Copilot is very important, but definitely getting better from year to year, week to week, how it's responding.
And speaking of that, I also want to bring certain details. So expect that this copilot would not work perfectly. For example, there was certain prompts that I tried recently where I didn't get to anywhere. So don't expect everything to work, and just trying to keep your expectation real here. For example, I wrote such a and I saved that prompt. Uh, so that prompt was saying that, show a daily breakdown of cost for each day from December 1st to December 15th. So let's say if this prompt would work now. Last time when I tried this in different ways, it didn't work. Let's see. I have some hypothesis why it didn't work, but I don't want to speculate here. Let's give it a chance for a couple. You see, so it didn't disappoint me, unfortunately. Say I couldn't find those resources. So which is strange, right? It's a subscription, it has access and everything. So main point here that I was trying to drive is you can use this tool, it's very good, and you can get some answers, but don't totally rely on it because there are limitations and certain things are just not there yet. And that said, I want to go back without, I don't want to prolong this demo again. If you have any questions, please feel reach back and we can look into that. But my main focus with this demo was on a cost management and all these views that you can get from there, and how you can initiate Azure Copilot, that you can interact with Azure Copilot to get some information, and certain scenarios where you cannot get information from Azure Copilot, and be ready to expect that. That said, so what we have covered today, we started with why and what of FinOps. Then we moved into how of FinOps, and we had a strong emphasis toward the focus framework, and as well as the approach that T-Rex is bringing to their customers to make sure that their FinOps journey is smooth and helpful. Next, we looked into tips and bits of the FinOps in Azure. What are the tooling, what are the services, and how you can utilize them if you are focusing on Azure environment. Then we looked at those 12 FinOps tips that were a summarized view into the all this FinOps framework, and as well as uh, uh, not just framework, but all this wealth of information and practices that T-Rex accumulated from the different projects and customers that we work together, so that you can use these tips in your work and in your approach with FinOps. And finally, we looked into some demo where we looked into Azure Portal. Yeah, I didn't just show you all the rosy stuff that's working. We also look into certain things that do not work at the moment, so that you are aware about the current situation. But there's a lot to come with that. And I want to again mention that, as Jason said, you don't have to limit yourself with all the tools that are only available on cost management and on a FinOps implementation on Azure. You can export the cost and then slice and dice it in any tool, any visualization that you have in place. It's readily available and it's there for you.
One thing I'd like to
Yes.
add on that is just and I'll keep using holiday terms, is just to put a bow around it too. Is to tie a bow around it is really about teamwork. And what I think you could see through this presentation too is you don't have to be a cloud expert to do FinOps. You don't have to be the best person at AI to do FinOps. FinOps is across the team. Everybody should learn it. Everybody should be educated on it, and it should be standardized across the team. And that's really where you get the advantage out of it, is when everybody's looking at it together as a team.
Yeah, that's our very indeed helpful tips and insights. Thank you, Jason. That said, we come to the end of this session, and I would like to thank Jason and everyone, every viewer who are part of this session. And here at T-Rex, we are open to hear back from you, from your feedback. What did you like? What do you want to learn more? from the FinOps perspective or any other perspective that involves the FinOps. And again, thank you, every viewer, being here. Back to you, Jason.
Yeah, great to be here with you again this year and look forward to the holiday.
Yes, happy holidays, everyone. I hope you
Happy
can
holiday.
enjoy your time off and keep us posted. Thank you.
Yeah.